Ooh, the computer. All right, welcome to our Successful Women Think Differently second week. So we're actually going to embark on the first habit today. And I was looking at this, I was like, oh my gosh, we're only taking one session for the habit because there's so much in here. There's so much in here. And I really, do I say this absolutely every time we start a new book? I hope that you guys choose to get a copy in your hands. I was reminded probably over the last 2 weeks about how, we weren't required to have a formal education or a degree or a diploma up on the wall, but these are our textbooks. These truly are the textbooks of life. And I think you will get the most. I mean, if you're just here and you're listening and that's all you can do, I'm so glad that you're here and you're choosing to do that and you have no barriers to do that. Like, you're more than welcome to get the most out of it. Put something in your hands and read it. There's something different to actually being able to see the questions and be able to ponder them, because there are actual questions in the book and places to write. And the other really great thing about kind of books that stand the test of time, like 5 Levels of Leadership, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, you'll go over them and over them and over them. And it's just sort of fun it's almost like an archaeological dig through your personal growth as you go through a book that you've done like 3 or 4 times and you see, oh, there was my thought process there. Oh, isn't that interesting? Oh, this didn't even stand out for me this time because I've gone past this. Now this is the piece that is just so interesting. So we are going to start running on habit 1 out of the 9 habits. And it is, I love that we're starting with this. Belief. There's been so many things about belief this week. Believe you can do it.
I think it's perfect from my example, like believe you can do it. So
you can give the example on recording now.
Now that we talked about it before. 2 days. Can you go for 2 days without your purse? No ID, no credit cards.
Well, at least you didn't get pulled over, so you didn't have to worry about identification there and a driver's license.
Well, I knew Lynn was going to be in the house at noon. And so I messaged him, when you come in the house, will you send me a picture of my ID, my license?
Oh, very smart.
And the credit cards. Just send me a picture of the front and then tell me, I'll put in a different place in my phone the 3 numbers on the back. So I had that covered. I had that whole police problem covered, I thought.
Good for you. No, I think that would do it as well. So the key lessons in this chapter are: optimism is a key to reaching high levels of success. Adopt a growth mindset rather than a fixed one. And take notice of your thoughts and adjust them as needed. And I love that, like, all of these things, it's not like, again, we'll say there's nothing new under the sun. All of these things are things that we've talked about in the past. But as someone who has delved deeply into personal growth over the last decade, I will say that this chapter has, like, it's a different facet, right? It's just a different way of saying it. It's a different way of positioning it. It's different examples. And when we're in different times in our lives, like I said before, they're going to speak to us in different ways. Sherry, maybe I'll let you take off in the first part here.
Absolutely, because I truly believe that how you think about change is an indicator of your success with change. So, and this first example is a great one where, it was a doctor telling her that she needed to do something different. She was pre-diabetic, and her self-talk, I've tried before and failed. What's the point of trying? It's a waste of time. I just need to accept it. My mother's big. My sister gained weight after 30. Why should I think I can be different? Healthy food doesn't taste good. I don't want it. Like, do you, hearing that, believe that those thoughts could propel her to success?
Nope.
No. If we don't believe we're going to be successful, we're not going to be successful.
I think the thing that struck me, though, too, is that some of these things were fact. her mother is a bigger person. Her sister did gain weight after. Like, it's not that we're disputing
Nope.
the validity of the thought. Like, it is a
Correct.
true thought, but what you're doing and how you're manipulating that thought into a future truth of yours, or a future valid like thought, is that's where all the importance is.
And I think that's where we in the Plexus business, we are in the business of helping people see these kinds of thoughts, because almost everyone that comes to us has a little glimmer of hope that change could happen, and a whole big stack of self-talk. I've tried before, it didn't work. Why is this magic slim thing going to be any different? Like, that's what they're coming to us with.
Yeah.
So that's our belief that we have the ability to support their shift in thinking.
I want to like kind of side trail over to Sherry's Brain Fit course that we did last week. And I actually would really love it if you would do it again. And I would love to do it in a way that, like, if people worked, like, that they could jump on and do it. So we were talking, and I think was it the last day, that we were talking about, the word isn't procrastination, it's the wrong word. But it was something that it wasn't necessarily untrue, but the thought wasn't who you are. It is what you do or what you have done in the past. Like, oh, and it was, Sherry, do you remember having the conversation with me about this, about how it was like, and if you remember the specifics, because my brain is just being morning-ish and my meta brain hasn't totally kicked in yet. But it's the concept that it's not procrastination. I can't think of the word. No, the word is gone out of my brain. But let's use procrastination as an example. I'm a procrastinator, or I don't get things accomplished, right? And so that may have been true from this moment to your past. You may have chosen procrastination,
Or to
it isn't
act in a way.
it isn't who you are,
Correct.
right? Like, so, but there's a fine balance between being aware, being self-aware of of your tendencies, right? And creating that, but this is just who I am. Okay, you know what? I actually have a really good, for instance, on this. My daughter broke her foot last June, like this past June, and really, really struggled with it all summer. Well, the June before, they'd gotten rear-ended in my new car, and she really struggled with back problems. And so that it was like a whole year of back problems. And then she broke her foot, and then she was struggling with it all summer and into the fall. And you could really tell that she was starting to embrace this. This is just how I am. This is just who I am. I am just somebody who, like, I can't, and now she's got this dread over the month of June and, all this stuff. And my brother-in-law, who is a doctor, who is a former Olympic athlete and just very high performing, he's done a lot of damage to his body. He had the insight to reach out to me and send me a long text message and said, he was very delicate about it. He said, I'm very concerned that she's going to adopt this as to who she is. And that's where we can get onto the chronic pain train. And we tie our identity with this. And he said, I really have a hard time helping those people, because the pain, it's not that they aren't feeling pain, but there's a brain switch that ties the two together. And so it almost elicits its own pain and self-perpetuates. Okay. I let Ella, my 15-year-old, read this message from her uncle. She went in massive pain. We thought maybe she'd broken her foot. Like, she was having a really hard time doing basketball games because she'd come off the court, her foot would swell. So like, there's the physical, like it was there. The physicality was there. it would swell. She'd be in super, like a lot of pain. She'd have to be helped out of the gym. Like first two games, she was starting to catastrophize, which totally fair. Like I see all the physical signs. I let her read this. And I said, Ella, we just need to decide that if you choose to play basketball, that pain will sometimes come with that. And we have solutions. We will go home and ice it. You can take something for pain before you go. You can choose to not play as hard. We can wrap your foot. We like, you can have a bath. You can do like all of these things. We have options. We can use cream on it. We can use like whatever, but it's not who you are. And my 15-year-old was able to understand that and untie it and believe that her identity was not tied up in this false belief in the past. Guys, her foot has not swollen. We've stopped wrapping her ankle. No tape. She hasn't asked for anything for pain for her back or for her foot since the day that she read that and made up her mind. And I actually asked her the other day, are you still like, do you like, how's your foot? How's your back? Right? It's been a while. And she's like, it's okay. Like sometimes it hurts, but it's not a big deal. And I'm absolutely amazed at how that awareness, she just drew this line. She's like, I'm not going to be that person.
I was at the chiropractor in Medicine Hat, and I actually just watched a video. It's on ChiroHub, and it's to do with pain and the brain, and how the connections, the nerve connections that create the feeling of pain get developed, and how that track gets set up. And even when the message, there is no longer pain, it's a repetitive message in the brain that tells you there's pain. It was it's a short video, but it was fascinating in terms of the actual connection, the nerve connection, and how it works in our brain. And how our mind believes there's pain. There's been pain. It believes there's still pain. Just exactly like you're describing.
Yeah. And it's just so interesting how like we can do the emotional work, right? And I've done that, you know, and you can coach yourself through mindset, but you think like, but there's physical pain.
There's pain.
There's
and there's proof.
And there's proof. There's like visual proof that there is something happening here. And it simply was and I just thought, my goodness, the mind is so incredibly powerful. And this kid hasn't had years and years and years and years of thought school. Well, I mean, a few years of thought schooling from mother, but you know, it just made me think how powerful our beliefs are about ourselves and how it can shape something that other people can see.
Yeah.
It's
well,
not
remember,
just patterns.
Brain's got two jobs: keep us safe, prove us right. And that repetition of a pain message fits both of those.
Avoid
keep us
pain,
safe, tell her there's pain, avoid, and prove us right. Yes, there's pain. Like, of course.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, it is so fascinating, right? And I think the other lesson too was so on the physical side, so Graham, Dr. Uncle said, it's not broken. Because I said, I don't feel like it's broken again. Like there's no bruising, there's swelling. He goes, it's not broken. So I said to Ella, it's not broken. It can't get worse, right? And so when we look into ourselves, so here's the parallel. When we look into ourselves and we go, I'm not broken. If I press into this belief system that I'm not broken, or I can accomplish this, or like we reject that fixed mindset that this chapter is talking about, it's not going to hurt me to a death. Like it's not going to be a final thing, right? Stretching and growing is going to be uncomfortable, but I'm not going to die from it. And we'll talk about more as the chapter goes on about those big things, but it just was such a neat parallel between her going, oh, look, I'm not going to make it worse. It's okay. right? Like if I choose to change my mindset to something else, yeah, there might be pain sometimes, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And we can just proceed.
Move forward. I am going to move us up to page 24, the little girl who set out to sell Girl Scout cookies.
Yes.
And so her goal was to sell 20 boxes, and her 4-hour shift is open. And here's the part that I find interesting. She had sold just 4 boxes. So do you see how those words even start to prepare you for the idea of how she's feeling? And so, this is a setup. I'm sure you were disappointed. Why do you think you only sold 4 boxes? Now, you can tell from the other person saying this to you, they're setting her up, right?
Yep.
Those 2 sentences set her up. So the little girl's like, I'm no good at selling anything. My mom said she had a sales job once. She's no good at it either. Nobody likes these cookies. I hate bothering people. Everybody's on a budget. All the women say they're trying to lose weight and can't eat sweets. I don't know if I'm going to bother to go back.
Oh, don't we validate our pain?
And I'm like, look at all the places that her little brain, I mean, she's a little girl. Her brain went to validate what she believed was right from her thoughts. That brain, prove us right. Isn't that fascinating? Because it could have been, wow, that's amazing. You already sold 4 boxes in your first try. That's incredible.
Well, and you can even say, like, even though there's lots of people trying to lose weight, I still sold 4 boxes of cookies, right?
It's how you're thinking about it. So how likely is she going to be to go back? How likely is she going to show the energy and excitement that would encourage people to buy a box of Girl Guide cookies, even if they don't want it, from a little girl that's really excited about offering them?
right.
And isn't that the voice in our heads? We want to share with 3 this month, and we only got 1. Ever said that?
Or you get to this point in the month. Let me just say, like, you get to this point. Today's the 21st. By the way, if you registered for Super
20th.
Saturday,
20th. It's only the 20th today.
oh, it's only the 20th. That's tomorrow. Okay, my belief system set up because I think somebody said tomorrow is your last day. And I'm like, no. This is the 21st. So anyway, so we have 2 days, today and tomorrow, to use that like
Credit from
awesome
Super Saturday
thing where we're getting free stuff.
Yep.
Love that. But you can get to this point in the month where we're in the back third of the month, right? I mean, that people say that this is where Magic Week happens, but it's okay. It's okay that you haven't reached it's okay that we haven't talked enough. It's okay. And truly, nothing horrible is going to happen if you don't.
You're not going to die. You're not
going to die from it. But are you going to it's that creating trust with yourself and building belief in yourself. How much more would you believe in yourself for next month if you took the next 10 days and you actually made your goal? How many people would it mean that you had to talk to every day between now and the end of the month in order to make that? And if you thought about it, like, you're not going to die if you talk to 7 people a day. Like, it's not going to surely kill you. I say that you probably would have more discomfort in day 3 of the reset, and you'd probably be willing to do that, right? Like, my brain tells me I'm going to die on day 3 of the reset every time. Have I? Never.
Day 1. Day 1 of the reset.
Oh, no, that's, I think that's a different part of my brain that says that I might die on day 1. Day 3, it's like this, like, innate belief that my body, like, we are going to surely pass away today. Just get things more. So I loved the Learning to Fail Forward story about Meredith. And like, I don't know, Valerie Burton is such a great storyteller, but you're feeling so bad for the girl. And you're like, how are we ever going to come around this story? Right. And she ends up, like, I don't know, halfway through when the people are telling her that she can't write, I'm like, someone needs to reach in here and smack somebody, because like obviously the girl can write. And then like I really, I'm looking at the time, 9:25. I think if we jump forward to page 29, when we look at what she learned, lessons for failing forward, she took a position in a company that was not where she wanted to be, but then she took opportunities to do the things that she wanted to do, to ask if she could be doing, and if someone could give her feedback. I mean, that is a heroic ask right there, is asking for feedback on something that you feel like you need to grow in. But that is also dear to your heart, right? I loved the point where like she's talking about, she believed in herself, she took a risk, but this one really stood out to me. She knew herself and was able to decipher between her stuff and other people's stuff. So are people just pooing on you because they've got some issues? Or is it actually your issue? Because sometimes we have to ask ourselves that. We need to take a step back and be like, okay, hold on a second. Does this have any validity to it?
I actually think that's a big thing when we're stepping out to do something different than we've done before. And the people around us, they're not comfortable with us doing or becoming different than we were before. They've come up with a satisfactory comfort zone with us the way we are. In our place, you could almost say.
Yeah.
And when we're choosing to grow and choosing to step out and do something different, something that may be difficult for us, what does their brain do? It goes into keep us safe, be right. You've been safe where you were. We want to protect you. You know, maybe you shouldn't try that risky thing. And
Yeah.
I'm going to say I have to appreciate my husband when I decided with a girlfriend that we were going to South Africa and going to go on a safari. And he kind of gulped and said, it's not a safe country. Like, it's not a safe place.
Oh my goodness.
But the growth, in all honesty, in that came all from his ability to accept that that is what I wanted to do, that it mattered to me, and that I had made some reasonably sensible decisions about the safety part.
Yeah.
But it's one of the few times that he said he wanted actually me to tell him every day that I was okay. I'd done lots of things before and we didn't talk for 3 days when I was gone. But this time, it was
Have
like,
you wanted
yeah, you just, check in, please.
for his peace of mind? Because not like he's going over there and like gonna
No.
he might have tried to come extract you. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. But I think this is what we have to accept and recognize when we're growing. We think it's about us. And we honestly, we think it's all about us. And we're like, don't rain on my parade. But we have to realize that the other person or people in our lives, it matters to them too.
And there's a really like that, again, we have to hold this in a really like the tension between the people that you can't just be like, well, I guess if you're not growing with me, it's fine. Because there are some of those people, and we see it often in Plexus when people come in and they start to change their thinking from the way that it was to being more open-minded, to having a growth mindset, not having a fixed mindset. There are people that just won't come with you. There are people that you make so utterly uncomfortable, and they can be relationships you've had for decades, but then all of a sudden you turn around and realize, okay, hang on a second, this was not a terribly, just because we have history does not mean it's healthy. It's okay, we can part ways. But if it's your husband, that's not really something that we're suggesting here. So you kind of have to hold in fine tension that growth, right? Like you still have to give them grace while they're going, oh, okay, well, hold on a second, right? And we have seen it happen where it hasn't come out terribly well because one person grows exponentially, but then they forget to hold that in that tension with their spouse, or the spouse loses it and whatever. Sometimes it's not good. But I want to just say and encourage you, give grace to your other half, because they loved you when you were a mess. They'll love you when you're growing and being incredible too. But like, they don't have to grow with you either. Like, you cannot force growth on somebody else. It's not possible.
I think it helps when we can show compassion and care and empathy for all the people around us. And like this gal said, recognize when it's our stuff and when it's their stuff.
Yeah.
And when it's their stuff, like we would anyone else, be compassionate.
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody else can just like jump in here and share like major takeaways too. Bottom of page 29 really caught me. And I highlighted a lot down there. Because hold on a second. Maybe this is not the right place. No, it's not the right place, but I did highlight this part. What are you telling yourself about your failures? Is that I always mess up? Like, what is your statement? What are you telling yourself about your failures? And again, attaching that to who you are, you don't need to. You can be like, yeah, in the past, I've chosen to not hold myself accountable to my goals, or in the past, failure is how I've learned. And we need to like get out of the idea that failure is a bad thing. And it's okay. You can say fail. There was a point in time where we were like ascribing to somebody who was like, don't say fail. And I'm like, I feel like failing forward is a good thing. Like, wait, it's okay. It's okay. You know, if you miss a basket in a basketball game, you have failed to make the basket. It doesn't mean that you will continuously fail every time. You have to keep trying. So now we're going to go into mindset. Like, the goodness sakes. Oh yeah, this is page 33 is where do you have something that you want to add before we hit 33?
Let's ask around the table here, because I feel like
you guys have stuff to say.
I'm looking for input. Janelle is sitting there just waiting. Janelle Trishelle, waiting to share.
I don't actually have the book, but I'm finding this quite interesting.
I'd love to hear what you're thinking, even without the book.
Absolutely.
No, I do agree with the whole mindset shifting. And one thing that I've been working on personally is, instead of saying, oh, I have to, I get to.
Yes. That I get to position is really,
and just that simple little phrase really does help. Like, especially I come home from work and I see dishes and it's like, and it's, oh no, I get to do the dishes because my dishwashers are married and at Bible school. So
that's a great one, because I heard my husband say that this morning. He was telling me about what was going on, and then he said, I get to feed the cows today. I'm like, wow, such a good phrase. Linda.
We used to tell the kids that. I remember that they'd say, oh, why do we have to go to church? I'd say, no, you get to go to church.
Yeah, totally. So I think mindset is something that we've talked about a lot. And in this, she's got some great stories, but she talks on page 32, she talks about the phrase, successful people don't have to ask. And she talks about how she realized maybe it was a faulty belief in her system. And she realized it's a fixed mindset. So what she was really saying to herself was, if you have talent, you don't have to try so hard. You don't have to ask. trying hard somehow diminishes your talent. You aren't really that talented if the way you arrived at success was by putting forth so much effort. Gifted people are naturally successful. Now, isn't it interesting that that mindset would come up and be a huge barrier to moving forward? Because she goes on to ask herself, and she's really, really high on self-coaching. Keep asking yourself the question. So is it true that successful people don't have to ask? Is this the principle they subscribe to? And then she replies back to herself, well, as I think about my mentors, even well-known entrepreneurs, I know they ask for opportunities. They don't just wait to see what shows up. They get clear about what they want, and they're not afraid to ask for it. You don't get what you don't ask for. Is that a phrase you've heard? So then the question she asked was, so if your belief that successful and talented people don't ask, is it helping you or hurting you? So is it helping or hurting if you put a post and say, I shouldn't have to message people. They should come to me. If this is really what they want, they'll come to me.
Oh my gosh, sorry. Like,
I knew Janelle would
anytime-
blow up with this.
anytime I see an advertisement for somebody who is trying to sell you something, to tell you how you don't have to message anybody and your upline's been telling you the wrong things or whatever, I'm like, I think I just sprouted 6 more gray hairs. Because people who have like good, pure intentions and like desires to grow their business, they want to do things where they're not like, they want to do things right, and then they get sucked into that, and I'm like, "Damn." But I did have a situation this week, and I was coaching myself, and that's why I love Valerie Burton, is because she's teaching us the self-coaching, right? She's teaching us how to ask ourselves good questions. And I'm driving and I'm examining my thoughts, because sometimes it's a jungle in there. And I'm going, okay, I need to send out a message to like these 6 or 7 people who are already VIPs, who already love their product. And I need to say, hey, I would love it if I could show you how to earn do a business message. And then the thoughts start. So hi, my name is Janelle. I'm a 6-figure earner in this company, and I still have these thoughts. So you're welcome. My brain starts going, but there's only 10 more days left in the month. 11 now, actually. But there's only that many more days left in a month. And so the other side of my brain goes, oh my gosh, that is so much time. Like, they might have like 6 people in their back pocket right now. If you don't ask, you don't know. And I was like, well, but what if they say no? And then the other side of my brain was like, yeah, because guess what? Sometimes it takes 12 business touches with somebody who already loves the product in order for them to start a business. And if you don't get on that first no right now, you're going to be delaying their success.
I can answer, Lynn. What do you need?
Oh, she's got, hold on, mute. And the other side of my brain is like, but you better get on getting that no so that we can get ahead. There's going to be a yes that comes at some point in time, right? But it's so funny, the 2 sides of your brain, because the one is going, you're going to die. And the self-coaching piece that you can develop needs to be that other thought. And she actually talks about that concept of, trying to, I'm trying to find where this is. It is asking yourself those questions, right? Like exactly how she's doing in this book. Question self, right? So I love where she goes. It's on page 33. It says, so is your belief that successful and talented people don't ask helping you or hurting you? So in my case, I could have said, is my belief that there's only 11 more days left in the month helping you or hurting you? Like, well, it's obviously hurting me because it's not helping me go forward, right? Do you ever have those thoughts where you're like, okay, that thought's hurting me, but I think I'd rather stay here because I'll just stay safe and I'd rather deal with this discomfort of not doing anything than actually go seek new discomfort. Anybody? Janelle's like, yes, me.
That's definitely one thing I'm working on. And even just like now I carry samples of Slim in my purse with me everywhere I go. Because I've had some opportunities at work here. I've had opportunities at church where I'm talking. It's like, hey, here. And so building into those opportunities and just saying, okay, Janelle, no, you don't need to be quiet. Just do it.
And the beauty is, if you say that out loud, both of us will benefit because I'll think you're talking to me too. So here is complete transparency. I guys, I don't know how to be anything but bottom of 33. This one really caught me. And I've struggled with this for years. This would be probably one of my personal top 5 mindset struggle things. After all, if you fail and you say you didn't really put forth much effort, you have an excuse. But if you fail and you truly gave it your all, your very worth is at stake. Women with a fixed mindset are terrified of failure. In the mind of a woman with a fixed mindset, failure is not what you do, but it defines who you are. The exciting part is that you have a choice. There have been so many times on even just in my Plexus journey where I have been working at something, and like we're talking years and years and years. I've seen this pattern and I've had to overcome this. So what I'm saying is, once you overcome one thing that tends to be a boulder in your fixed mindset, it doesn't mean that that boulder isn't going to show up again down the road and it's the same boulder. Be like, I've seen this rock before. Like, come on. I thought I climbed this. I thought I climbed over this boulder already. Well, it doesn't mean that the same boulders aren't going to keep on showing up. You just get better at recognizing them for what they are and realizing that you have to climb over them again. So many times in my business, I've been like, well, I'm only going to work this hard because I'll just create an emotional safety net for myself that if I fail at my goal, I could have known that I could have put in more effort and I will feel better about myself because I'll know that I really could have done it if I really put everything all in on it. But, it's okay. Right? It's okay. Really. And then we could go into the stewardship part, which, ladies, that verse where it's like the Bible is useful for teaching, for reproof, for like all that. I swear I need to have that up on my wall because I quote it so often. Parenting is just so much better with like a biblical foundation, but man, self-coaching too. Because once you have been, and she talks about this in here too, once you have been given a purpose by the Lord, you have a higher responsibility to continue to carry that out. And so when I continuously choose to be stopped by this same boulder of being like, but it's okay. You could have tried more. Jesus loves you anyway. Like, yeah, he loves me and he's going to forgive my shortcomings, but my goodness, he gave me a purpose and I'm not vaulting over this dang boulder. Like I need to do this with everything. Do all things as if working for the Lord and not for men, right? Don't I believe, right? And then you start like looking into your spiritual mindset too, where you're like, don't I believe that if I truly gave it all I had because the Lord asked me to do this, he put this in front of me as a purpose, that he will take care of me, that I will not end up broken on the other side. He is not going to forsake me if I am walking in his plan and purpose and I lay it all out there. Because if I do fail, he's got a plan to pick up the pieces and make something beautiful out of that. Do I not believe? Then you start going, your unbelief is where? Is your belief is not just broken in yourself, your belief is broken in the plan and purpose that God has for you and his ability to use you even in your brokenness. And it was interesting because as I kept on reading this, you would have asked me before I went through this again, because I was listening to it on Audible, and then this morning I went through it like actually text. My eyeballs saw the words and they went into my brain. And I started asking myself, so you would have thought, if somebody would have asked you, do you have a growth mindset or do you have a fixed mindset? I would have been like, I got a growth mindset, right? We're all here for growth, right? See, I would have been like, I'm growing. My team page is called Grow. We're growing, right? And as I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, Janelle, we got some fixed stuff going on here. Like but then I was like, no. We are growing. I have been growing. My mindset has been changing. You are not stuck in a fixed mindset. This is not absolutes. There's more work to be done. And that is the growth piece right there. When my brain swirled around to this point, it didn't catastrophize and be like, oh, we were so fixed. It's all terrible, right? No, we're growing, but there's so much more growth to be had. I hope you guys have that hope too.
Absolutely. I loved the list on 36 and 37 where she talks about, have you told yourself that you're stuck in any of these areas? And where do you believe you have little hope or no further potential? And as she goes through that list, I'm like, oh my goodness. Every day, I or someone around me will say something that sort of exemplifies these stuck examples. You've decided you're not good with numbers. You can live with that. Or the idea of learning scares you. Or like just little phrases that we say that we've actually incorporated into who we are instead of what we do or what we have learned so far.
I just thought of a great example of this. So Janelle, was it 2 years ago that you and Kelly went to Banff? 2 years ago? So 2 years. So this is like a beautiful, miraculous healing story where Janelle was actually able to go hiking and walking and did so much more than she ever could have done before with the physical constraints from her lymphedema. But what I look at here in that story is she may have physically been able to do it, but she also had to climb the mental mountain to say that she could actually go and do these things. And that is not, that is rejecting that piece of this is who I am, not what has happened in the past.
Yeah.
And that could be even a harder mountain than the other.
I actually just read a fascinating story, just a storybook about a gal who was training as a downhill skier in the juniors division. She was young. She was, 17, training as a downhill skier, and was projected to win the next year's Junior Olympics as a downhill skier, and was training, went on the mountain with her trainer, and there was an accident. The cable broke. She fell. The trainer died, and she became a paraplegic. And her dad stayed in this, you're going to get better, you'll be able to walk, for longer than was healthy. Took her all over the world, got the same answer. It's a complete spinal. And then she went to a rehab where the physical therapist showed her a video of paraplegics skiing on one ski with a seat in the paraplegic Olympics. She was inspired. Until then, life was over. Life was a disaster. I mean, there was a lot of negativity. That sparked hope in her. And a year later, she won silver in the paraplegic Olympics. And what a story of hope and inspiration, taking what life deals you, which there's no promises. There's not necessarily good things about it, but taking whatever it is with what you have in you and becoming who you were meant to be with those circumstances. And it's fascinating because we all take these stuck things and said, and we use them as excuses. You know, I don't know how to do that, so I can't. I don't know how to do this, so I can't. All the things. And yet, maybe we just haven't tried hard enough. We haven't believed.
There was one more. Yeah, she had a sentence on page 35. A growth mindset sees strengths as only a starting point. Right? And I can see that in your story too, that you were just telling about the paraplegic. She had to have a lot of the inner strength and the belief of the can do and all of those things. And just because she became a paraplegic didn't mean she couldn't be a skier. But it can be like a square peg round hole moment, right? Where you just, sorry.
I don't have two legs. I can't ski. Like, period.
I've said square peg round hole since my oldest had one of those, you know, the Tupperware things with and trying to put like the square peg into the round hole. That's always, I was like, that is just such a brilliant illustration for so many things that we try to do in life, right? Where, you know, you've got to think of it differently. You have to think of it differently.
I like in the bottom of page 40, she's got that little chart about building self-awareness. But in his book, Learned Optimism, Dr. Martin Seligman notes, some people, the ones who give up easily, habitually say of their misfortunes, it's me, it's going to last forever, it's going to undermine everything I do. Others who resist say, it was just circumstance. It's going away quickly. And besides, there's much more in life. So if when we don't accomplish, we view it as, oh, I'm just, if we take it on as a personal thing, we actually reduce our ability to accomplish it the next time.
And this is where what I was talking about before about stewardship, that's top of 42. When there is something you were meant to do, you'll never truly be off the hook.
Yeah.
And guys, sorry, what were you going to say?
Is it your purpose?
Is it your purpose? And that's almost scary, like to the point that like we sometimes need to be careful where we're like, oh, I'm going to declare that this is my purpose. Well, once you actually said that out loud, I mean, you're still responsible to it if God's told you in your brain. Once you've said it out loud, then it's like, okay, well now it's just not the Lord, the all-knowing Lord who knows that I've been, because he knows anyway, but now it's everybody else knows, right? And it can be a beautiful element to our testimony to say, well, this is what I was told to do, right? Like we think about how many stories in the Bible where God put a purpose on somebody who was so ill-equipped.
Totally.
Like Gideon, oh my goodness, right? And you just think, man, and it's not can we just clarify, this is not a Bible verse. God does not call the equipped, he equips the called. It's true, but it's not a Bible verse. It's not in scripture. It's a very, very loose translation of a verse.
I like it though.
It's not untrue, and it's not heretical, but it's not in the Bible. But he does. It's a true attribute of God that he does not, like, he can give you, guys, okay, he has gifted me in certain ways. And I so appreciate the gifts, but if I don't do something with the gifts, it just ends up being a mediocre talent, right? I actually just put in a reel. I was going to put in the reel that I just posted this morning that something about leading worship. And my comment was going to be, if you ever travel through time and meet 12-year-old me, please don't tell me that I play the piano, because I'll fall over dead and that won't be good for future me. Because that was not like,
No.
God gave me musicality, but it was up to me to refine that and do those things. Did I come equipped? Well, he gave me a desire and a purpose, but then I had to do something with it. Right? And then I had to walk out in faith that he was going to make it work out. And so if we've been given the purpose, part of the obedience is walking it out in faith and allowing him to bring things together. Sometimes that means, God, I know that you put a desire in my heart this month to help this many people. So I'm just going to do the work, and I'm going to let you bring the pieces together. I'm going to believe that what you say is true. And I'm going to, even in my unbelief, forgive my unbelief, right? Even in my unbelief of what you have equipped me to do, I'm going to say, it's okay. You told me that I should help this many people this month. I'm just going to go do the work. And who knows, maybe something that I've said is going to help somebody. Maybe they don't start on the product, but something that I've shared is going to help somebody. And it's okay. So I'm going to keep showing up until you tell me to stop.
I love page 42 with its 4 coaching questions.
Oh, yes.
She calls them excuse shattering questions. So the first one is, what's my excuse? Like, what is it? Just whatever it is, write it down. And then secondly, what does this excuse give me permission to do or not to do? And really thinking about both sides of that. The third one is, if I could no longer use this excuse, what would I have to do instead? Which is where the rubber really does meet the road. And then number 4 is, why don't I just do that now?
Sorry,
And I think these 4 questions apply to a lot of things.
Absolutely. I feel
You know,
like this needs to be a card that we print out and put on our mirror.
Yeah, because I mean, really, it's about what's my excuse to not make this phone call? What's my excuse to not make this appointment? What's my excuse? Like, what's it giving me permission to do?
Yeah.
Keep
Well,
thinking about
and then we can go back and be like, is that helping you? Or is it hurting you?
Exactly.
Have you ever seen those memes where someone's like, I just did a task that took me 2.5 minutes to do that I have been putting off and worrying about for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi. I'm the problem.
I'm the problem. It's me.
It's
the problem.
I'm the problem.
I think we've only got a couple of minutes left, so we need to just do a fast wrap up. But if you do have the book, the questions on page 45 are really, really valuable to actually read them and write down your answers in a journal. If you want to move forward, that's the action.
I'm going to take a picture of the questions and I'm going to put them in the chat. So that, that we can all look at them. I'm just looking here.
The be intentional about what you say to yourself when you fail as well as when you succeed. Because if you're saying when you succeed, oh, I was just lucky. And if you're saying when I fail, oh, I'm just not good at this, you are sabotaging your success.
And I will say, there's oftentimes when we give people platforms to say, well, like, what are you doing? Why are you succeeding? And people just go, I don't know, it's just lucky. Well, no. You are actually doing something to perpetuate, like, it's okay. You can be humble and still own that what you're doing is working and could help somebody else. But I did really love, and I think we can probably wrap up on this question. On page 43, it says, what have you stopped hoping for out of fear that you won't get it? In what ways has settling crept in and buried a hope for something better? So on that note, she encourages us.
The
Sorry.
Plexus Book Club starts.
Starts right now over on the ambassador page is probably the best place to go. So thank you for being with us this morning, and we will be looking at habit 2 next week. More takeaways, you can throw them in our chat. Thanks, guys. Bye.